northern Arizona, what you got the opportunity to do while you've been here. Because my goal is to make sure fun places to be. I'm still in the military, you guys, but I'm in the National Guard now down in Phoenix, so it's more of a 1 weekend a month type of thing now. So it's kind of great to meet new families. So things that we're going to cover today, there's going to be a wide range of subjects that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about pioneers, prospectors, vegetation, wildlife, geology, Native American culture and history. So a little bit of everything.
It doesn't look much higher, guys, but right now we're at 6,900 feet. The North Rim, what we're looking at right there, we're analyzing 8,000 to 9,000 feet above sea level on the north side. So during our normal winter season, guys, this has been one of the warmest winters we've had in 30 years here at the Grand Canyon. When we get a normal winter season, the North Rim receives close to 150 inches of snow each winter season. So the North Rim is actually closed from October to May 15th. So it's actually closed for one more week. It's going to be opening up. So remember, we don't get a lot of families that are from Minnesota, but you know how to drive on snow and ice. The thing about a family from Florida, right, trying to drive around out there. So it's a little bit better idea to close the North Rim, and it also creates more of a safer haven for the wildlife as well. So you're going to be able to see a lot of different changes here over on the north side. You're going to be able to find bison, black bear, mountain lions. They're going to roam around out there because out of the 6.5 million visitors that do come to the Grand Canyon, only about 10% of tourists even make it over there. So it's a whole different identity being over on the north side of the canyon. The widest gap of the Grand Canyon, gentlemen, ladies, is right here. You see this big gap going over to the North Rim? This right here is called the Bright Angel Fault Line. All right, so if you were to stand at the village, which is kind of like I would say the tombstone of the Grand Canyon, right? The old historic town of the canyon, and you go from the village to the North Rim following this fault line right here, which is called the Bright Angel Fault Line. That's 18-mile gap right there. They were able to create a hotel setting down there called the Phantom Ranch. So like I said, if you're ever going to stay at Phantom Ranch, you're looking at about 18 months in advance to get a hotel stay. It books up. Do you want to take a look? Okay. So, and then if you look to the right, ladies, see the green water? You can see the Colorado River. Now you see the line going across it? That's the Silver Bridge, the 1966 Silver Bridge. Because prior to 1907, the only way that Americans could actually cross the river was by boat. So in 1912, they actually built a suspension, it's kind of like a cage that was winched across by wires. And then they built a suspension bridge, but they realized it had too much movement for the mules to want to cross it. So they built that bridge right there, which is a 440-foot iron bridge that gets you over to the other side. So think about during the summer, average temperature in July and August is 120 degrees at the bottom of the canyon. A tough day for us right here in the summer is 90. All right, so that's pretty nice because it's not 90 degrees like you have in Florida or Minnesota where you have the humidity. Remember, it's about 15% humidity here, so it's a lot drier. So majority of the time when rain does fall, you guys ever heard of a thing called virga? So what happens is, as it's raining in the summer, the water that when it's raining in the air, it actually evaporates before it hits the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So only about 6 to 8 inches of moisture ever hit the bottom of the Grand Canyon. That's why in the summer, guys, when we have a good 3 or 4 feet of snow right up here, there's hardly any snow ever that stays down at the bottom of the canyon because it's still reaching like 45 and 50 degree temperatures in the middle of winter. So different environment down there. Best time of year to visit the Grand Canyon, guys, especially for hiking, is October. Best time of year. Worst time of year was 2 weeks ago, spring break. Spring break is the worst time ever to visit the Grand Canyon. The lines to get into the park were 3 hours long. That's how bad the traffic was to get into the park.
When was Teddy Roosevelt here?
1903.
And
when he actually rode a mule down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon.
He
rode down by Bright Angel, and his tour guide was a Confederate scout who fought through the Civil War named John Hance, who led Theodore Roosevelt down the canyon in 1903. Kind of spitting out of the bottom of that platform down there. You're looking at a 3-story building right in front of us. Doesn't look that big, but when you get a lot of those unsafe tourists who want to climb down the rocks and wander around out and they're walking out below it, that's when you get a better idea of how big this feature is, right? Earthquakes a year that occur here at the canyon, they're not going to be as high on the Richter scale like you get in California, but it doesn't take a 5.0 on the Richter scale. It could be a 1.0 or a 2.0 on the Richter scale. It takes just a little bit of movement to break apart these rocks. We also talked about snow that comes in the winter months, guys. We do get snow on this side. It's not as much as the North Rim with that 150 mark, but here, this side of the canyon, we usually receive about 60 inches of snow. So when our snow is melting, it's gonna settle right into those cracks. Canyon, from this location, we're no longer identifying the North Rim of the canyon. What you're looking at from this side to the line, we're looking at a 15-mile stretch from this side to the other side of the canyon. I showed you guys earlier the Bright Angel fault line, which I told you which would be 18 miles.
I mean, do you want to see the sun setting in the trees or see the sun setting in the middle of the Grand Canyon, right? It's a huge difference just driving a few minutes down the road from here. So I always tell visitors, yeah, you want to just get yourself a better opportunity and pursue down the road to Moran. I'm not sure, I know you ladies are going to go Flagstaff and everything, but if you're thinking of a sunset spot, you didn't want to go to the Yavapai Geology Museum, I recommend staying on the road that we're on and making it to Moran Point.
Is you focused on down here, down at the bottom of the canyon. What I want you guys to look down at the bottom, you see that big horseshoe? See down at the bottom, there's a big horseshoe shape, and you can see right in the middle, there's a salmon-colored hilltop right in the middle. You guys see that? So they actually operated a copper mine down here. Isn't that dangerous, right? Well, we didn't know all that back then. But copper was really your money maker. So if you guys, the trail that you see down in front of us, the other people that were hiking on this little trail, that's the original copper mine trail that they built in 1890. Remember I was telling you guys in the Jeep when we were waiting to get parking? It stays busy because everybody wants to hike on down to the old Grandview mining shaft. Because where the shaft was is right in front of that salmon-colored hilltop. See that little hill in the front? If you go to right to the front, this trail will lead right to Horseshoe Mesa. And in 1892, you know what they were able to discover right there? A 700-pound chunk of copper was brought out of the canyon right down there.
Wow.
So think about pulling that up out of the canyon, guys. Think about how difficult it was to bring up this trail right here. So they put it on sleds and they drug it up by mules all the way up to the top of the canyon. When it got up here, they put it on a wagon, sent it out to a small town 65 miles away called Williams, and that was the Santa Fe train depot. Put it on the Santa Fe directly to Chicago, Illinois, and they actually won first prize for purity at 70% pure with that chunk of copper. Now the thing is, the copper prices by the early 1900s started to plummet. It was like the stock market had already crashed. So they realized, why are we gonna stay in this business if nobody's gonna pay us for it, right? So it's kind of like you lost your logging job, you lost your mining job, and then what you focused on is the city of Flagstaff, where the ladies are gonna stay tonight. That became a huge tourist industry because it was so close. The canyon, guys, anything you do in life, you're gonna need a solid foundation. Would you guys agree? So the inner gorge of the canyon, if you looked at inner gorge of the canyon, how dark it is in color, that is our metamorphic rock. That was established by pressure and volcanic activity. So they call that metamorphic rock, the inner gorge of the canyon, the Vishnu schist. It's 1.7 to 1.8 billion years of age. That's how old the inner gorge is. Now, what the geologists have came up with is a theory called the dude theory, all right? D-U-D-E. We're gonna break down the word dude and give you an understanding of what each letter actually means, okay? So the first letter is deposition and deposits. So think about this, guys. There were major ocean waters that flowed in and flowed out. So as the ocean waters brought in silt, they brought in sediment, and all that material would start to settle right on top of the Vishnu schist. So when you look out at the Grand Canyon, think of it like a layered cake of time, right? We're looking at layer after layer that would establish itself right on top of that first letter, okay? The second letter is gonna be the most important letter out of all of them, and that would be uplift. Guys, tectonic plates are shifting and moving, right? So as the North American plate would collide with the Pacific plate, it was like two trains crashing, right? Here's the North, here's the Pacific. As they hit, it did this. Sinking motion. And it would kind of sink underneath, and it would rise up a portion of land called the Colorado Plateau. So if you were to take Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, those 4 states, and we draw a large circle in the middle of those 4 states, that would be the Colorado Plateau, and it's 150,000 square miles of land that would rise upwards. It would push up 3,000 to 6,000 feet. That's where all these soft layers, they used to be a lot lower, but they were all pushed up and elevated. Without the uplift, there would never be a chance at a Grand Canyon, guys. Because think about it, the river that we were talking about earlier and the few little clips that you were able to see, the Colorado River is not the largest river in the country. That's not why there's a Grand Canyon here, guys. The Missouri is the largest. Mississippi, the Arkansas, the Yukon, the Rio Grande, they're larger, they're bigger. Even the Missouri is 1,000 miles longer than the Colorado River. Why didn't they create a Grand Canyon on that side of the country? Because there was never any uplift. There was never any rise with the plates on that side of the country, okay? So you have the third letter is gonna be down cutting. So when the Colorado River came through 5 to 6 million years ago, it was like a hot knife through butter. It made a nice little incision down the top of the Colorado Plateau. Now today, the Colorado River is a football field wide today, and even 5 to 6 million years ago, it was a football field wide. So how did a football field wide give us this wide Grand Canyon? The 4th letter, E, erosion. Time, gravity, wind, rain, earthquakes, flash floods, ice wedges, and over time, the canyon can continue to widen and expand. Now, what accelerated the erosion rate that widened the canyon walls is that there were volcanic eruptions inside the Grand Canyon. So when those volcanoes were erupting, guess what they created? Lava dams. So if you take today's Hoover Dam, which is 800 feet across, right? And you multiplied it by 10, that's how big those lava dams were. So the entire Grand Canyon was flooded with water 8 times. So when the dams finally collapsed, guess what came with it? The Colorado River, the whole reservoir of water. So it looked like a tsunami of water flowing in. You had a substantial amount of water coming in, you had material, you had boulders, and it continued to widen the canyon. And what was eroded away was over 2,000 square miles of material. Now, where did all this material go? The Gulf of California. So if you were to go to the Sea of Cortez and do a deep sea expedition at the bottom of the ocean, that's where those ancient layers would be found, is at the bottom of the Sea of Cortez.
Wow.
So does it make sense, guys? Deposition, water flowing in, bringing silt and sediment, the uplift, the down cut, and the erosion. If you have all 4 of those factors working for you, you have a natural wonder like this. You have to have that uplift, you had to have the down cut. And what made this uplift different than any other uplift around the world is there's been major uplifts around the world. No layer stayed intact. Most layers were twisted, mangled, and distorted. Look at all those colors, how they fairly leveled up, came up. It was kind of like a rising cake in a pan. It just slowly moved upwards just like that. Pretty easy. You guys understand it? Deposition, uplift, down cut, and erosion. If you want more information, you want to see some of these kind of visual aids, if you go back to the Geology Museum, you go inside, there's going to be 18 different visual aids that you can look at that show the water coming in, showing the uplift, and you can also look at some of the sea life fossils and things like that that people kind of need to kind of understand the geology of the canyon. So that could be an option for you guys if you'd like.
Is there going to be a quiz?
I do have a trivia question for you guys. I'll give you guys before we leave.
So since the rock and so forth is so porous, did that help with all of the...
Oh yeah, very easily. Yeah, that helped. That made a big difference, and you needed that. Oh, watch out behind you guys. So what I like to do is